Nigeria's COVID-19 tally passes 24,000 as NCDC records 490 new cases on Sunday. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERA, sues the federal government to publish names of palliative beneficiaries. In international news, more than 500,000 persons dead worldwide from COVID-19. And in sport, Super Eagles head coach Janet Ward says NPFL players not good enough.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. There is a steady spike in the number of coronavirus infections recorded in the country. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control reported 490 new cases on Sunday, bringing the overall tally to 24,567. The new cases are spread over 20 states, with Lagos still the epicenter with 118 cases. Delta State followed with 84 new infections. Ebonyi State has 68. Meanwhile, the coronavirus disease has claimed the life of Kogi State's Chief Judge Nasir Ajana at the isolation center in Abuja. His death makes the second highest profile fatality in under 2 weeks after an aide to Governor Yaya Bello also died in Abuja hospital. Before becoming Chief Judge, 64-year-old Ajana was chairman, Kaba Disturbance Tribunal, Kogi in 1994. Chairman Election Petitions Tribunal in Adamawa State in 1998, member of Governing Council of Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies in 1999 and 2006, and Chairman panel on Murtala Muhammad International Airport fire incident in 2000. He was also chairman of the Elections Petitions Tribunal in Akwa Ibom State in 2007 and River State in 2008. Although Lagos hosts the distinct title of COVID-19 epicenter in the country with more than 10,000 cases, the state government says there are still more than 2,600 active coronavirus patients that are yet to report for treatment at the isolation centers. State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, said the patients may have shunned treatment as a result of ignorance or fear of stigmatization. He said they may have also opted for home care. Professor Abayomi said there are 128 COVID-19 related deaths in the state as of Saturday. The state currently has 10,144 cases. That is by far the highest rate of infections in the country. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it has so far doled out 49 billion naira out of the 50 billion naira targeted credits facility designed to cushion the economy against the impact of COVID-19. CBN's Director of Corporate Communications, Isaac Okoroafo, said the intervention fund has gone to at least 80,000 micro, small and medium-scaled enterprises. He said these funds would support federal government's measures to stimulate the country's economic activities and would help avert a looming economic recession. Okoroafo said apart from the 50 billion naira targeted facility for households and small businesses, there are other intervention funds such as the 100 billion naira health facility that is currently being disbursed. The fund targets specific sectors such as agriculture, value chain, hospitality, health, airline service providers, manufacturing, trading, and other income-generating activities. CBN may qualify for the credit facility. The reopening of Nigerian airspace to domestic flights is welcome news to many, but after reviewing how much flights would cost, the enthusiasm may wane. Experts say average flights could cost up to 100,000 naira as a result of COVID-19 security measures in place for domestic flights. Meanwhile, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria has announced a doubling of the passenger service charge that travelers pay while on domestic or international flights. From August the 1st, FAN says local passengers would now pay 2,000 naira, while international travelers would pay $100. Travel within West Africa is classified as international. FAN says the increase in passenger subcharges is intended to be used for improvement and upgrades to the airport infrastructure that would enable it to accommodate new airlines. The Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) has filed a lawsuit at the Abuja Federal High Court against the Buhari administration and the Central Bank of Nigeria. The organization wants the government and the Central Bank to publish names of Nigerians who were beneficiaries of the cash, food and other palliatives during the COVID-19 lockdown in Abuja, Lagos and Ogun states. The group wants the courts to force Minister of Humanitarian Affairs Sadiya Umar Farouk and Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele to publish details of how it spent or distributed public funds and private sector donations that were meant to provide socioeconomic benefits to the country's poorest and most vulnerable citizens. The group says publishing such a list would erase any perception that the reliefs, funds and donations are not reaching intended beneficiaries. SERAP says such a perception could undermine public trust and integrity of the entire processes and modes of distribution of relief and benefits to vulnerable Nigerians. No date has been fixed for hearing the suit. An order has gone out from the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, to the Commissioner of Police in Ondo State, Bolaji Salami, to immediately restore the security detail withdrawn last week from the state's Deputy Governor, Agbola Ajayi. The Deputy Governor had accused the State Police Commissioner of carrying out the wishes of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, with whom Ajayi had been at loggerheads for some time. Ajayi has left the APC camp for PDP with speculations that a scenario may likely play out in Ondo State, similar to the Edo episode where Governor Godwin Obaseki dumped the APC for PDP and picked up a governorship ticket. Coming up, African stories. Malawi swears in new president after opposition upsets victory in rerun election. Later, international news. More than 500,000 persons dead worldwide from coronavirus as infections top 10 million.
You are watching ANN.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills.
I beg, I want frills on mine. But it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown.
Me too. I want to come to burn.
You know what GMS are this for coming? Hey, did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually,
fantastic!
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Malawi opposition leader Lazarus Chekawa has been sworn in as president after winning the rerun election. 65-year-old Chakwera took the oath for a 5-year term on Sunday, hours after unseating incumbent Peter Mutharika. Chakwera won more than 58% of the vote in Tuesday's poll, a dramatic reversal of the result of the original election in May last year, which was overturned by the courts. The rerun election was regarded by analysts as a test of the ability of African courts to tackle ballot fraud and restrain presidential power. Chakwera said in his acceptance speech it was an honor to be president. He said it will restore a new generation of faith in the possibility of having a government that serves. Tunisia has reopened its land, sea and air borders on Saturday for the first time in more than 3 months after announcing the coronavirus outbreak had been brought under control. The tourism sector, which contributes nearly 10% of gross domestic product and a key source of foreign currency, the pandemic was severely impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. Correspondent Adnin Chawoji reports.
An Air France plane has landed at the Tunis Carthage International Airport following the reopening of Tunisia's borders. This is the first commercial flight between Paris and Tunis since March. New health measures have been outlined by the COVID-19 task force as it seeks to prevent a second wave of coronavirus infections.
We have put in place 4 different measures. First, wearing face masks. No passenger will leave the airport without it. The mask is in my hand so that you can hear me. Second, temperature check with thermal cameras. The third measure is the sanitization of the hands, the passport, the luggage and the plane. Fourth, social distancing is obligatory.
According to the Civil Aviation and Airports Authority, all passengers were asked to limit movement on board. They had to remain seated throughout the flight. On-board services have also been reduced so as to limit interactions between crew members and travelers.
The slogan of the Ministry of Transport and Logistics and the Airport Authority is Tunisian airports are safe and welcoming. We are ready to host Tunisian and foreign travelers as well as tourists. The health protocol is respected by all our agents.
Thousands of passengers are on waiting lists. Only the luckiest were able to fly back home, either for work or holidays. These travelers have complied with the safety measures inside and outside the main terminal.
I live in Paris. I have not returned home since last December. I miss my family. It was impossible to travel during the confinement. We feared for our lives as well as for public health. Now with barrier gestures, tests and all the safety measures, we were lucky to take the first flight back home.
The state has opened borders at the right time. I'm not in favor of this measure because I live in Denmark. It's rather because the economy in Tunisia needs to return to normalcy. We've had enough isolation. Now we must leave while respecting preventive measures.
The daily news release published by the National Observatory of New and Emerging Diseases will include, from the date of the opening of Tunisian borders, updated data on the epidemiological situation in countries of residence of Tunisian expats. This is to enable them to know whether they are concerned by mandatory quarantine or not, depending on the prevalence of the disease. According to the COVID-19 task force, 105 countries around the world classified in terms of epidemiological risk are concerned about the reopening of the Tunisian borders. People here hope that this scene of the grounded planes and deserted airport terminals will soon be a thing of the past.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused major disruptions to small business operations in Uganda. Small-scale operations are struggling to cope with the pandemic's economic impact. Hilary Ayasiga reports.
Edward Kayemba is a hawker in Uganda's capital, Kampala. He deals in second-hand shoes, but he says the COVID-19 pandemic is crippling his business.
When they announced social distancing measures, they locked the stores. We decided to do hawking on the streets, but that has also been stopped. It's now becoming difficult to fend for our families.
Kayemba says he had about $150 before the pandemic, but now he only has $30 left from what he previously earned hawking shoes. Kayemba is now plying his trade in the suburbs of the capital, Kampala. But with the current economic hardship due to COVID-19, buyers are hard to find. The family is now struggling to make ends meet. His wife washes clothes in the community at a fee to supplement the family income.
I move around the village asking the locals if they have clothes to wash. The money I get from washing, I use it to buy food at home.
To maintain social distancing measures, Kampala city authorities have prohibited trading on the streets and public transport is restricted in some areas. Access to basic needs like food is becoming a challenge for the underprivileged. The prices of most commodities have shot up. Food rights activists are urging local authorities to give more support to these vulnerable groups.
Life is not yet back to normal. People have not yet started earning. They are actually incurring more costs than they are earning. So the economy hasn't yet gotten up. We are still on our knees. And I'm not surprised because we have left the food market to the powers of supply and demand. So there is less food coming.
The Ugandan government had been providing food relief to affected families in Kampala, but it has since stopped after the ministry in charge of relief and disaster preparedness surpassed its target of 1.4 million needy people. Food distribution has now shifted to rural areas. Kayemba is now switching to rearing chickens, something he believes could help put food on the table. He is, however, hopeful that as the country returns to the new normal, he will resume his hawking business.
When we return, international news. More than 500,000 persons dead worldwide from coronavirus. And later, sport. Super Eagles head coach Gennett Rowe says NPFL players not good enough.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. America's Johns Hopkins University says more than 500,000 persons have lost their lives globally as a result of COVID-19. The United States accounts for about a quarter of all the deaths. There are now more than 10 million COVID-19 cases around the world, half of which are in the United States and Europe. The virus is also affecting South Asia and Africa, where it is not expected to peak until the end of July. With more than 2 million COVID-19 cases, the U.S. has reported 125,000 deaths, more than any country. Brazil, with the second highest number of recorded cases of 1.3 million infections, has 57,000 deaths. China has imposed a strict lockdown near Beijing to curb a fresh outbreak. Nearly 500,000 persons will be barred from traveling in and out of Angsana County in the province of Hebei. In Asia, India's confirmed coronavirus cases crossed the 500,000 mark on Saturday. The country's death toll has exceeded 15,000. Brazil continues to test only symptomatic patients for COVID-19, even though it has the world's second highest number of cases after the United States. The municipality of Interior of the state of Rio de Janeiro was the first in the country to impose a lockdown and deploy sanitary fumigation measures. Now it has launched a mass drive-through testing program. Lucretia Francio reports.
The process is simple. An app, an ID, a code, and a little blood, all while never leaving the car. While Brazil's president has dismissed COVID-19 as a little flu or a cold, the city of Niterói has never taken the pandemic lightly. 3 sites like this one opened this month and are conducting free drive-through tests for the city's 500,000 residents. It is an effort the health department sees as critical for containing the outbreak and relieving pressure on medical facilities.
Brazil averages about 3 tests per 1,000 people, and Niterói has already surpassed 40 tests per 1,000 people. This is key to following the infection rate and halting the spread of the virus.
The procedure is over in less than 3 minutes, and test results are available online within 24 hours.
It is a safety precaution. I had no contact with anyone with the virus since this was made available for free. I feel it is a good idea to know.
I want to be sure because there are elderly people in my family who I visit and help, and I want to know I will not be infecting them.
According to the city's health department, the price for rapid test kits has dropped to under $20 with almost 10,000 tested since the program began 3 weeks ago. And if any of these people tests positive, it will trigger a contact tracing procedure. This is also unique in Brazil. There's no other place in the country where this is being done. To date, the rate of positive tests at the drive-thru has been about 6%. Authorities here say that until there is a nationwide program like this one, the pandemic will only worsen, with devastating economic and health consequences.
We are driving in the dark, and unless we get off the road we have taken, we will continue to drive in the dark. Without testing, Brazil's fatality rate will only continue to increase.
But not everyone is driving in the dark. This off-road site and others like it may be the key to steering Brazil onto a better path.
Australia's second most populous state, Victoria, is considering reimposing social distancing restrictions after the country reported its biggest one-day rise in new coronavirus infections in more than 2 months. Australia has 7,800 COVID-19 cases and 108 deaths, but the recent surge has sparked fears of a second wave. As new coronavirus cases have mounted, Victoria has embarked on a massive testing regime, and the state's chief health officer said the state may need to reintroduce social distancing restrictions. Victoria, home to more than 6 million persons, pledged to remove the bulk of restrictions by the end of July. These include forcing restaurants and cafes to offer only take-away services. Shutting schools and halting sports proved successful in slowing the spread of COVID-19. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has called on states to continue easing restrictions to enable the country revive its economy. Tens of thousands of anti-racism protesters took to the streets in cities across Germany this weekend in what may be the largest demonstrator turnout outside of the United States. But the protest extended far beyond Berlin, with rallies organized in 9 other cities, including Hamburg. Correspondent Guy Henderson has the details.
They're still here. They're still angry.
Every day, people of color face racist crime and violence across Europe. They are not targeted randomly by perpetrators, but simply because of who they are or they seem to be. Often, it's reality. Often, this reality is denied or underestimated. That's why we are here today, for Berlin, for Germany, and the world to see how frustrated we are. Black lives! Black lives! No justice! No justice! Say their names.
Several hundred people turned out near the Brandenburg Gate. There is no limit on the size of such gatherings in the German capital now. Nearly everyone still wore masks and kept their distance.
This is no longer solely an American movement. For weeks now, Black Lives Matter demonstrators have managed to keep up the momentum across European cities like Berlin. As coronavirus cases surge in parts of the United States, officials here in Berlin are continuing to ease restrictions. It's making it easier and easier to gather.
Black African power! Black Lives Matter!
More than a month has passed since George Floyd's death. The fury it sparked has been heard all over the world. Not even a pandemic has sapped the willingness to protest. It is real change these demonstrators want. In Berlin, they say they'll keep going until that comes.
Up next, sports. Super Eagles head coach Gernot Rohr says NPFL players not good enough. Please join us again.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network. in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr says players from the Nigerian Professional Football League are not good enough for the Super Eagles team. Since Rohr became coach of the national team, only Heartland keeper Ikechukwu Ezenwa has been able to make it into the Super Eagles squad. Rohr, who signed a new 2.5-year deal with the Nigerian Football Federation in May, also revealed his future with the Super Eagles is hung on a successful Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon in 2021. Catalan's Dragons players will return to training next Monday ahead of the resumption of the Super League at the start of August. The club have confirmed they will be operating in line with French and UK government's guidelines, which includes regular testing of players and staff, daily screening and monitoring, including temperature checks and thorough cleaning protocols for the stadium and equipment. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.